Hi and good morning. Today it's the 9th of June and it's 2020, and I'm still talking about the discipleship based on the book of John. And today we are looking at chapter 7, but just a quick recap of chapter 6, what we did yesterday. We looked at Jesus feeding the 5,000, and we did say that whatever you give to God, whatever you give to Jesus, He has the capacity to multiply that. And it could be in the physical, it could be in the spiritual. But according to me, and what matters most to me, is that God multiplies the spiritual bread, the spiritual aspect of me, because in so doing, I am healed from inside out, and I'm able now to live out in the physical life. And if this physical life ends, then I'm able to continue in eternity with God. So I want to grow in the spirit. I want my spirit to be multiplied. Not so that I can increase, no, so that Jesus increases in me and I decrease in Him, and His light shines above everything, above who I am. So my beingness be in Jesus so that He can shine more. So there was the feeding of the 5,000, and then there was Jesus walking on the water. And we concluded yesterday by saying Jesus is the bread of life. Now today we are looking at chapter 7. But just before chapter 7, we see that people couldn't quite grasp who Jesus was. Some of the disciples left and some of them stayed. And Jesus was asking the 12, even you, are you going to stay or are you going to leave? And out of the 12, there was one, and Jesus did mention that was going to betray Him. And yes, He did betray Him at the end. Now we're looking at chapter 7 today, and there is a celebration in Judea. There is the Feast of the Tabernacles, where they're remembering their deliverance from Egypt. The good thing is Jesus didn't ignore the festivals and the teaching of Judaism. He was at the heart of Judaism. God had taught him the history of his people, and he was also taking part of it. Remember, he was also baptized when John the Baptist was doing the baptism and calling for repentance. So Jesus did not ignore what was happening around him. He was very conscious of his culture, he was very conscious of his history, and he was very conscious of the cultural practices that were going there, and he took part. But this one begins with the brothers telling him, if you are going to be a public figure, why don't you come with us to Judea and start showing your gifts and start being public? And Jesus tells them, no, I won't come with you because my time is not yet. He said he won't go with them. He wasn't going to show himself publicly and putting himself at risk before the time. So he was going to follow the perfect timing of God. However, when they left, it could have been immediately or after a few days, Jesus went. He went, but he went there privately. He didn't go publicly. But at some point he did find himself, or rather he went to the temple and he did what he knew best to do. And it's to do with the teachings. And people, the Pharisees and the other teachers of law, were surprised. How did this guy know all this? Who has been teaching him? Where did he learn all this? And there was a dispute about who are the children of Abraham and whatnot. A lot of dispute was going on. In the day today that we live in, there is still a lot of dispute on who Jesus is. And my question to you today, who is Jesus to you? What do you take Jesus to be, or who do you take Jesus to be? What is it that you know within your culture and the culture of the world that really is either pulling you or keeping you away from Jesus? Jesus hasn't stopped loving you. Jesus hasn't stopped loving me. He's still calling us. He is still loving us, and He wants us to be able to reconcile with Him, to get to know who He is. And once you get to know Him personally, then you are able to accept and believe in Him. It is difficult because of the things that we have learned through our culture. It is difficult because of thinking that we know more than even what the books themselves say. Sometimes we think our ideas and our minds can lead us to the truth. But one thing I know, once you're aware of the world view and then you're aware of God's view, then you can be able to believe and trust that Jesus, he is the one that he says he is. The disputes that are within your heart can be brought before God. The disputes that are within other people that you interact with can also be argued on the basis of what Jesus stands for. He is the bread of life. He is my Messiah. He is the God who saves. He is the sacrifice that God sent to us. So today, as you go about your day-to-day activity, I'm giving you a challenge. Who is Jesus to you? God bless you and have a wonderful time. And let's meet here again tomorrow.